Okie dokie. Well, welcome everyone this morning to the Public Practice Accountants Club on Clubhouse, where public practitioner thought leaders, industry specialists, and accountants just like you discuss hot topics in public practice and how they go about navigating the public practice landscape all around the world. So, fundamentally, public practice has the same principles, dynamics, and challenges no matter where we are in the world. We might have some different tax seasons, busy periods, and legislation, but at the core, we are very much the same. So, our room this morning is Learn to be a Great Leader. So, a great topic following after last week's very exciting discussion. So, that was good. Having a look, yes, I think I know everybody this morning in the Clubhouse stratosphere. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us this morning. My name is Linda Steffens. I am an accountant, author, and introvert, and you guys know what I do and everything about how I rock and roll. So that's really cool. Good morning, Kyelie Baxter.
Good morning, Linda. I know everyone as well. So hello to everyone out there. Happy post-budget day. May your inboxes be as full as mine are. I noticed Brendan has this super cool little balloon on
He does. How did he get that?
What does that mean?
I don't know.
If you know, please put it in the chat. We're dying to hear. It surprises me every week. So if you know how you became special and got a balloon, please share with us.
Yes, we want to be special too. And of course, that's a great segue into using the chat. That's a great thing for us because we can just chat away, to the presenters, to other people in the room. We'd love to hear your thoughts throughout the next hour. Even if it's just, look, say hi, tell us where you're clubhousing or listening in from. That would be great because we just love to know where everybody is and create a real little network we got going on here in Clubhouse. So that's very cool. So I can see he's popped something there into chat, Kyelie. Perhaps you can have a look for us.
He has no idea.
Perfect. All right. We'll all work it out together, Brendan. Excellent. Okay. So that's the chat. If you do want to sort of, I suppose it's the equivalent of a private message or direct message, the back channel is there. That's the little aeroplane looking symbol, paper aeroplane symbol over on the right hand side. And of course you can raise your hand and come and speak to us live as well. So we welcome all of those things and love to hear from you, and particularly if there's anything that you want to discuss, not necessarily about this topic this morning, but anything else that we can talk about for you if you've been wondering about or something's been happening in your firm or your career. Well, we're very happy to tackle it and give it a good go in a conversation, aren't we, Kyelie?
We totally are.
Excellent. All right. So just a reminder that as we kick off the conversation, that of course our intention is always to be positive, supportive and collaborative as we come together in support of our amazing industry, no matter where we are in the world. Oh, and of course we are a CPA discussion group. So you can get your CPD and CPE points for listening in. And of course the replays are there available on a number of spots out in the social stratosphere. Okay, enough rambling on, Linda. Learn to be a great leader. So do you want to be a great leader? I think we all want to be a great leader. Leadership is more than just being a boss. It is the capacity, and this is a great quote, the capacity to translate vision into reality. So leaders are those somewhat special people who inspire their teams and the people around them to build their vision alongside them. Someone who probably teaches, guides, encourages their team to be the best. Now, that can all sometimes sound like a bit of a big ask, but I want you to know that leadership, it's not an inherent attribute. You don't get born with leadership necessarily, but it is a skill that can be learned. And I think that's where our conversation will go today. So all about learn to be a great leader. I think the first thing I want to say about leadership, Kyelie, is that it's not about power and control, is it?
It's absolutely not about power and control. I think it's more being, strategic and understanding where your staff are at and setting them up for success. Because that in turn sets you up for success.
Absolutely. And I think we're talking about the natural place to go with leadership is someone who is leading a team. But I think one thing I know I've discussed with many team members over the years is that leadership happens at all different levels of your professional career. And it doesn't mean you have to be in management positions or anything like that. Leadership is all about how you see yourself, how you conduct yourself, how you interact with others around you. Would you say that's fair?
I think that's fair. Like every single person is a leader in some way, shape or form, even if you're just leading yourself at that time.
Yes, perfect. And so it's not about power and control. It's not about telling people what to do. And I think from what I have learned about accountants and our profile, we have a very supportive nature and a very supportive and communication style for most of us. That's something we can certainly dial up, or it just comes very naturally to us. And so sometimes I think we can have a little bit of an aversion to leadership because sometimes we do think it can be a bit about telling people what to do and I'm the big boss. We just want to completely bust that myth away this morning, because that's not what it is, and that as accountants we make extremely very good leaders because of that supportive and communicative style, because we're willing to listen, we're willing to take on other people's opinions and ideas, and we don't necessarily rush in and need to be the first one talking. Some of us do. I do. I'm raising my hand at that, so I'm not quite as supportive in my communication as I could be. So that's something I work on. But I do think in accounting, sometimes we think we can't be leaders. Kyelie, have you experienced that with other colleagues or team members?
Definitely. And I think everyone is okay being a leader when they don't realize they have to be. And then as soon as they get some sort of leadership role or title or opportunity to step up, that's when we really see people crumble a little bit, because they realize there's an expectation on them. So even natural leaders then can be very aware, become very self-aware. So I think it's really important to, the first step, and something that maybe we should discuss, is the different leadership styles. Because I think knowing your own leadership style helps you become a better leader.
Absolutely.
Like knowing the way people learn, it helps you be able to teach them better because you're teaching directly to their actual style.
Absolutely.
So I found these 3 leadership styles. I think it's by Kurt Lewin, and it's from donkeys years ago, right? Like it's from like 1940 something, very old.
Perfect, because they would stand the test of time, obviously.
And they stand the test of time. And basically he says it's 3, right? Authoritarian, participative, and delegative. And basically, I think they speak for themselves, but authoritarian is that pretty much do as I say, just do as I say, not what I do. I'm going to stand here and tell you what to do and just get it done. Participative is I'm going to work with you, I'm going to show you how, and, really be on that front line with you. And delegative is interesting. Delegative basically says they offer little or no guidance to group members and leave the decision making up to the group members. So I would not have thought that was how delegation works. It would have been more like you delegate just to these people and tell them exactly how. That apparently is authoritarian. Now, interestingly, he also offers outcomes for each of those styles, pros and cons.
Excellent.
So they say that authoritarian leadership is best applied to situations where there's little time for group decision making, or where the leader is the most knowledgeable member in the group. I think when we consider the accounting world, we're definitely moving into a more collaborative environment.
Yeah.
We're seeing workflow processes go across more of a cross section, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure that authoritarian, while there definitely is one person with the most knowledge in the room, there's always one, right?
Yes.
And that might change. That is necessary necessarily the best type of leader for our industry.
I think you just raise a good point there around just because you may be the leader or in that organizational structured position that you're the leader or the manager doesn't mean you're the most knowledgeable person in the room, right? That you know, so that's part of leadership, isn't it, is knowing who to look to and where to take the knowledge from. So that's just something I picked up on as you were talking about that.
Totally. And the participative one where you like work with them or you're working, you know, on stuff that they're working on or whatever. Interestingly, they say, you know, participative leaders do that, but they retain the final decision-making process. I would say I fall into this category mostly.
Yes.
But it says that group members feel engaged in this process and are more motivated and creative. And we all know that creativity leads to innovation, and innovation is so important in anything we do these days.
Absolutely.
But it says democratic leaders, so this participative leadership, tends to make followers feel like they are an important part of the team, which help fosters commitments to the goals of the group. So interesting, right? And then delegative. So everyone be thinking about where they fit in. So delegative, it really, this one is a bit weird. Like it says that this leadership tends to result in groups that lack direction and members who blame each other for mistakes, refuse to accept personal responsibility, made less progress, and produced less work. Interesting, right?
Interesting.
Like we've had a whole Clubhouse room about the art of delegation. So I would suggest that delegative leadership is not being done in the correct way.
No. So back in the 1940s or whenever this was, that obviously the word and the practice of delegation has moved on or elevated from where it was, and sounds more like that participative. I can't say that correctly. It's too early in the morning. It's very. I'll let you say that word. You know, that style, doesn't it? Really? Yeah. Cool.
And that's the thing. So they came back and revisited this later because this is from the Dark Ages, and they added 3 more, which was transformational, transactional, and situational. So I think probably transformational is about, you know, your emotionally intelligent style leadership. You just sort of ebb and flow as you go. It says that style of leadership results in high performance, but you can't use it all the time. Because you know, transactional is like a follow the leader sort of role. People know what they've got to do and what they're receiving. It's just like supervision and direction.
So more like that management definition, right? So okay, perfect.
That would work really well if you're doing the same thing every day.
Yes.
I know that in my job, I don't do the same thing every day. Neither do my staff. It's probably one of the things my grads say to me most often. Like, I just thought that, didn't realize that I'd have to learn so much. I didn't realize that every day would be different. I didn't realize that there were so many options. Basically, I didn't realize this job would be that hard. Moving on. And the last one is situational leadership. And it says, they stress the influence of the environment and the situation on the leadership. So really interesting, right? So I just wanted to talk about those things so that while we're having this conversation, we can think about our own style of leadership and how the different kinds of leadership, you don't have to fit into one box, you know, and if you do fit into one box, well, that's cool. Like I said, I mostly fit into one, right?
Yes.
Perspective.
Well done.
Thank you. I also use, like, I am very in tune with my team's emotions. Like, I watch them a lot. So I definitely use that transformational style as well. So interesting. So have a think about that, guys. Please feel free to share in the chat if you want to tell us which one you think you fit into. I think start by understanding.
Yes. That's where anything has to start from. Any learning has to start from, particularly for us accountants. I think we're so information driven that absolutely we have to start with information, and that's where we get the basis for all our learning. So I think if I just reflect on those with me, I certainly have a natural style as well. And I think that all of those tend to morph a little bit for me. You know, there will be different times that you will use different things, but you will tend to have that go-to one, and that will happen. We see this in communication styles as well. Your go-to style, the one that you fit in most naturally, will be the one that presents itself when you're really at ease and you're not stressed, and you know, is just how you roll. But when you do get stressed, then it can come back and actually bite you in the backside sometimes, you know, because it can take a different level of where you're on how you lead. So I think, you know, I think the smart money is on using a little bit of all of those and really assessing. I like that situational, but really assessing what's the best way for either the situation or the team member, perhaps, Kylie. You know, and you might use different things with different people, right?
Right. So if we firstly understand ourselves and our own leadership method, then secondly we have to think, well, who am I leading here? Is it a group of people? Is it one person? Like, what's my role?
Is it just me, like you said? Yeah.
Is it just me? Am I just leading myself? How do I respond? You know, what works for me? And you have to think about the other person as well, because it's all very well to assess ourselves and go, oh, I want to be this kind of leader. If that doesn't work for the people that you're supposed to lead or motivate or encourage or teach, then it's like, I say this all the time, right? But it is like doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, which is the definition of insanity.
It is,
so it's
absolutely
great that you feel good about your leadership style, but if that's not working, you have to try something different. So there are so many different leadership styles, and it just doesn't work for some people. It might work for one, it might not work for the other. So you have to make sure that you are the leader, you are the person in control, you are the one that can change.
And certainly through my professional career, there have been people that have challenged me well and truly in my leadership journey. Absolutely. You know, again, that's that, like I say, our go-to, we'll have a go-to style. You are just who you are. And then when you're presented with this person or situation that really pushes you outside of your comfort zone from a leadership perspective, that can get really tricky. And, you know, and then you've got to sit back and go, hang on a minute. This is not working. This has worked in 99% of the cases. Now, all of a sudden, I've got to do something different. So that's the challenge of leadership, I think, isn't it?
Or how about when, you know, you're learning to be a leader, or even if you've been doing it for a long time and it's like, this has always worked. This is always the way I've led. Now suddenly these people don't understand what I'm asking them to do.
Yes.
What's the problem here? There must be a problem with them.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe there is, right? But also, we can only control ourselves.
Correct.
So we have to then look at the options of, you know, how we train, how we teach, how we lead, and go from there.
The first place always is to look internally, and not in a blame way or putting yourself down or anything like that. It's from that learning perspective and gaining awareness around what's happening around you and how you are affecting others. Because you're right, Kylie, the only person that we can control how we feel, what we say, what we do is us. We cannot control anybody else. So it's pointless even thinking about that. We can influence, but we cannot control. And I think that's where leadership comes in as well there. So oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was going to say, so then we know our own leadership style. We know there's these other options that we have this fallback to. We have sort of assessed whether it's working or how things are going. And it's more about, well, how else can we be great leaders? You know, like I consider myself an ever evolving leader. I
Constantly.
don't go too badly. I've been blessed with very, very long-term staff over the course of time. So I figure I must be doing something right. But I will also definitely have ex-staff that say I'm a terrible leader.
Yes.
So, you know,
yes.
you can't please everyone.
No.
That's cool.
No.
But what else can we have in our toolkit to make us really good leaders? And I think this is where we need to give some tips and tricks today to really equip people and get them thinking outside the box. So one of them is just going to sound so obvious, but I don't even think we do it, which is encourage creativity. Like,
I love that one.
Creativity in accounting, right?
Yes.
I feel like this is right in your alley, Linda. So do you want to talk about this one.
Absolutely. And I think, look, I come very much now from, I suppose you could call it, I have a coaching style about how I do things. And that's all about encouragement, engagement, taking someone on their own journey, because absolutely, again, just going back to that control thing, you can't control what people can do. You can only lead them on a journey. And so that style of helping someone become aware of their own circumstances, or help them to realize that they actually have the answer, that you're not just going to be there telling them what to do, is very empowering and encouraging for them. So there's a couple of things around this that do not necessarily come naturally or instinctually to us accountants. Now, we're in a profession, and certainly if we're doing a lot of compliance type activities, where we need to have the answers, where we tell people this is the answer and here's what you need to do. We are experts in those fields, and so we should be. That there's, that's exactly our technical skill base and our knowledge. But when it comes to people and leading them on a journey and getting them to have the answers, you can't tell them what to do. All you can do, and the best technique for this is to ask questions. And so framing a question, you can, and I'm sure you've done this in your professional career, even in the technical aspect, where we've asked a somewhat leading question of a client and got the answer that we wanted. Well, you just need to extend that capability to the other people around you. So maybe not be, we're pretty smart cookies in the accounting industry, so maybe not be so obvious that you're leading them down a particular path or you want them to have a particular answer. But it's really that inquiring, inquisitive, curious mind, which is all about encouragement. And the one thing I don't think we do enough in accounting, we can be so hung up on the detail and getting it right, and the little bits and pieces that go wrong, that we forget to celebrate what's been right. So that's
Good
big
point.
in encouragement. Yes.
Yeah. So practically, what does this look like? It looks like giving someone a win, right? Giving them the time and space that they can think for themselves. So this is their creative part. Do the job or the work or that piece of work or that little tiny part of the work in a way that suits them.
Absolutely.
And give them a win.
Absolutely.
So I work with my little baby accountants, right? Like,
yes.
They don't know how to do a tax return. Let's just have them research borrowing costs and learn how to do that.
Perfect.
I don't care if they don't use the template, just figure it out themselves. Like, obviously, they can't write it on pen and paper because that's allergic in our office. But as long as they use Excel or something, that's fine. And then I come back and I'm like, wow, teach me how you did that. Like, tell me how your brain worked. Cool, that's so different to the way I do it. I do it this way. And then they're like, oh my goodness, I can do something you can do.
Yes.
And they were able to be creative, which gets them out of that I don't know anything headspace.
Yes.
And you set a goal that is within their limits, which gives them a win, and you celebrate their success. So it breaks down the barrier of this is just all too hard for me. And that's where you have to start. And that's with juniors and seniors.
And I love how you added in there, teach someone else, because confidence absolutely comes from when you can teach somebody else. So from a leadership perspective, you really need to stand back and just help people to understand what skills they have, what they can do, give them those wins, let them teach others, and let the group or the team go where it needs to go, And I think that's the hardest thing around leadership sometimes is, steering that ship, and particularly if you can see it's going slightly the wrong way, and how to bring it back. But, encouragement, engagement, giving them a win. Love it, Kylie. Perfect. Excellent.
I think the other one too is being a role model.
Yeah.
Okay. That can be really difficult at times, particularly when we've got stuff going on in our personal lives, or even if we've got stuff going on in the office that's a bit rubbish. Like, I know that I'm sure you guys are too, coming up to the busiest and worst time of the year for me. We're dealing with all the clients that ignored my begging to get their stuff in early, and now suddenly they all want it done by the due date, and it's urgent. They're urgent, not mine. And I've got tax planning, and we've got all this FCT stuff, and the budget was last night. Everyone would like to know how it would apply to them. So, just a couple of things to do. And I'm going to try and sneak in a little sneaky trip to Tassie next week.
Of course you are.
By the way, no Clubhouse next week.
Yes, spoiler alert. Yes.
No, spoiler alert. I think serving as a role model is really important. And when we talk about being a role model, I don't mean being fake and positive all the time.
No.
But you do have to be aware of how your emotions affect other people, particularly in a small team.
Yes.
So we're very aware of that in our little family unit. So that, if you've got a partner and you go home every day and they say, "How was your day?" and you go, "It was rubbish," and unload on them, that's going to get tired pretty quickly.
Yes.
If you come out of your office, and every single time you come out of your office to go to the bathroom or to talk to a staff member, you're like, "Oh, this client, blah, blah, blah." Oh,
yes, or there's a scowl on your face or something, you just aren't happy, right? Yeah.
That's going to get tired pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think realistically, sometimes you do have to just fake it, like the staff or the people or even your partner in your business or your partner at home. They don't need to know that we've worked 14 hours that day and all of the stress that's been going on. And what I find personally is if I leave that at my desk, it makes me happier as well. So you need to really think about the knock-on effect, though, of serving as a role model.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect your staff member to get up from their desk and stomp around the office in a grump all lunchtime. Don't do it as well.
No. And what can happen then is that can very negatively affect the cultural aspect of what's going on around you, because when anybody feels like they've got to walk on eggshells around people, then very much we start to get these toxic relationships and cultures happening. So they're not great. So yes, you have to be aware of others. And I think sometimes, and it needs to swing both ways. I think what we're talking about here with leadership is there's a lot of balance. I think you'll be hearing, with the leadership styles that Kyelie mentioned before. There's a bit of this and a bit of that, and you got to use them in different circumstances. The same thing of being aware of your moods. You can't be a certain way all of the time. You can't also be fake, because that's not being authentic to who you are. And that will soon wear you down from an energetic level as well anyway. So, you can't pretend all of the time. But certainly as a leader, you do need to front up and sometimes put that smile on your face when, perhaps things aren't just going right for you that particular day or that particular week.
Yeah, I have had staff literally sitting in my office crying about something so small, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is almost laughable, because this is like a 2% problem and I have an 80% problem going on. And I've just sat there and, held their hand and said, well, here's our options on how to fix this, and here's what my suggestions, and you can choose the solution.
Yes.
Not gone, do you realise how ridiculous you're being? That's sort of the monologue in the back of my head at some stage, because I'm a normal human being.
Yes.
I feel like that's a normal human being response.
Exactly. Exactly.
But certainly I wouldn't be a good leader if I just dismissed them and said, you've got no idea what real problems are.
No. That whole I know I've very bad at someone saying, well, welcome to my world, that sort of comment. And it's just like, that's not helpful, Linda, so yes, but you're right. We are human in this. Are we going to get this right all of the time? Absolutely not. We are fallible. And so all we can do is be aware, is to communicate and do our very best with what we know. And so I love too that you talked about, just awareness around your own feelings and putting on, where things need to be within the whole structure of the team. And I think a way that you can communicate that, and I know we've talked about it before, I think in meeting flows or something like that, where perhaps at the different organizational levels, if you're communicating around what's going on from a work aspect of, I've got, to deal with the lodgement program today, we're supposed to be at 80% and we're at 42%, so this is my life today, and what are we going to do about that, compared to I just didn't get my, I got a few extra review points on my job this week, or whatever the differentiation is in between our concerns. So communicating around what you're doing on a regular basis will help that a little bit and hopefully minimize it just a touch.
Yes, and I love that, and I think that really falls into that participative leadership.
Yeah.
Because what that does is when you're sharing what you're doing in your day, it encourages people to make contributions. So as an example, if you use the example of the lodgement program, which is going to affect us all right now.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to bring that up. I didn't mean to bring anyone pain.
Security, Linda.
Yes.
Everybody's looks beautiful at the moment.
Yes.
Like it's the 30th of March. Like
yes.
Tomorrow,
yes.
It's not going to look so beautiful.
No.
About 31st of March.
Yes.
May or may not get launched. So, it's one of those things. It's inevitable, right? Like it is what it is. But when you communicate with staff what's happening, it allows them to make that brain connection of, so that is what you're doing. And the way I fit into that is here. So I've actually got a job with the 31st of March that you've really been pushing me on. I've been a bit grumpy and I didn't really understand why. And now I realise that you've told me that every one tax return we lodge is 0.2%. So we're only 4% short. So that means we've got to lodge X tax returns. And this group is 8 tax returns, and I could make a big difference here.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like you've really got to encourage people to make contributions. Not always by saying, you need to get this done. Sometimes you have to lead them to the water and not tell them to drink. And that's very difficult, and sometimes it's very frustrating.
Yes.
But people need to understand how and where they fit.
And I think too, from our communication styles, we've got these amazing big processes sitting on our shoulders. We do a lot of problem solving in our minds, and sometimes we forget to spit out what we're thinking. And so I love that leading a horse to water analogy, because you have to say sometimes quite obviously what it is that you would like them to do, and then exactly whether they do it or not is up to them, but very clearly, even though you're going, oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to say this, or I have to say it again and again and again and again and again until you're blue in the face. That I think is also part of leadership. It's part of, I think, the awareness around how we affect others, because just because we're thinking about that particular situation and it makes complete and obvious sense to us what we should be doing or what that person should be doing, they might be thinking about other problems, other things going on in their lives, and they're not as clued in to exactly what we've been thinking about. So I think communication again is going to come into leadership quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also about remembering to tell people the why and not the how or what to do. So you definitely need to tell them what to do, and often you need to tell them how to do it, right?
Exactly.
But also we forget to share the why. So as leaders, particularly when you're a business owner, you have all this extra knowledge in your head that you don't necessarily share. No. So you know that that client's going through a divorce and that they need those financials because they cannot do financial settlement until that time. The staff member might know, those clients are splitting up, but they might not know, but they can't do financial settlement until we get this done. Now, we know that husband or wife or both potentially are emailing us every single day and ringing and ringing and ringing. The staff member's shielded from that. All the staff member hears is us going, where are you at that job? Where are you at that job? How are you going? When will I get that for review? So if you tell them the why, it gives them the same motivation. I think we learn it at uni. It's like, aligning your interests.
Yes.
That principal and agency theory.
Yes.
Back to me now.
Oh, look at you go.
So that's what you need to do. You need to align your staff interests. And it's not about telling them every single thing that's going on. It's about thinking, have I told them everything they need to know to get them to behave?
Understand. Yes. In a funny sort of way, yes. And I often joke about it being my evil little plans coming together, because I have something in mind of where I would like a certain team member or client, because I use a lot of this style when I'm working with clients, is to lead them on a journey. And that's exactly what I'm around. Kyelie, what I'd like to talk about is a little bit about role models. She's pulled a puckery face at me. You can't see that, but she likes the sound of that. Role models. So in accounting, okay, let's think about my career and what I've seen. Often we land in these leadership-esque type positions because we've been technically good at what we've been doing. We've been good at our work. We're maybe a great performer with regard to budgets and all the technical aspects, what we do. All of a sudden, we're put in this management role or leadership role and said, here's a group of people, lead them and get results. And we're like, what on earth is going on now? No one's told me what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to go. How do I do this? All right, I'll just get in and see how it goes. I don't think that there is necessarily, and sometimes there is, but I don't know that there's necessarily a lot of absolutely fabulous leadership role models in accounting. Certainly in my career, there's aspects of bits and pieces of people that I've been influenced by over the years, but they weren't necessarily in the firm or the practice that I was, up and coming in at the time. So what do we do then if perhaps we, or even have a role model that is a different leadership style to us and we actually don't like it? Like, are we supposed to just be like them? What do we do, Kyelie? Where do we look for these role models?
So I am a big believer in mentorship.
Okay.
And I think I've talked about this before. I strongly believe in mentorship, and I strongly believe in surrounding yourself with other like-minded people, not the same people, but giving yourself almost like a board of advisors.
Yeah,
so
love it.
You're in a leadership role, and depending on how much leading you have to do will depend on how significant this is to you. But for me, I have a mentor that I have known for a very long time, that knows me quite well now, but it's definitely a business relationship that I know that I can pick up the phone and go, blah, 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 blah. What this, and they will not solve my problem. I have to go, this is my problem. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And they will unpack it with me. Super, super important, particularly if you're in practice virtually by yourself and you're leading teams.
Yes.
The other thing that I have is like board of advisors is technically the term, I suppose, but pretty much it's a group of like-minded people in similar positions to yourself or other leaders as well, where you can go out with them, have meetings, really talk openly in a confidential environment about, hey, this is what's affecting me. Have you ever had that before? Yes, I've had that. Now, obviously, you don't talk about your clients and their tax positions. It's more about, I'm trying to onboard this and I'm getting resistance from my staff. Or what do you do when all of this happens? Or I have found the board of advisors invaluable because it's more casual for me, and it will depend on your setup, but the board of advisors is more casual than my mentor relationship. It is like we just go out for dinner now, once a quarter at least, unless somebody calls for it earlier.
I need something.
Exactly. I can rely on each of them individually if I just need to have a vent to someone, which is excellent, but also they get it. And sometimes you just need someone to get it and understand the frustrations that come from being a leader.
Yes.
And that life isn't fair and sometimes we just have to suck it up, and that's really hard. And it's easier to suck it up if you know that someone else is doing it too.
So board of advice, a group of peers, I suppose, other leaders, maybe a few steps ahead of you or a few steps behind you, a different sort of group. Yeah.
Cross-match, different
Okay.
industry.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have to be known or referred and trusted. So
Yes.
you actively seek to set this up.
Yes, I was going to say, how do we do this then, Kylie? Yes.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
I stole this idea from Business Chicks, right? So
Love
Business
it.
Chicks years and years ago tried to set this up,
Mm-hmm.
and they invited me to a lunch, and they pretty much just grouped 8 random people together and wanted to charge like $4,000 a year for it. And I was like, maybe I'll do that. And then they didn't have a Gold Coast one, so ours got canned. So I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this myself and not charge $4,000.
Great idea.
We'll just have meetings. But obviously, when you get people in exec or leadership positions, it's super hard to coordinate schedules. So we ended up just doing dinner. That worked really well for us because for us, it was more casual. It was more relaxed. We could all speak to each other and get to know each other more on a personal level and what makes people tick. Because often someone will say, I'm having this problem because blah, blah, blah. And it's very easy because we know each other and trust each other now to say, but I think you're not seeing it from this point of view. Or you're seeing, now I sit on other proper boards, right? I would never say to someone, hey, are you being too emotional?
Yes. But you can say this within your group that you have.
100%.
Yeah, great.
So it's a very trusted group.
Love it.
You can make it as official or non-official as you want. Like certainly when I first started it, I did definitely, privacy agreements and NDAs and all of that sort of thing just to protect people that were coming in. Because while I knew everybody to some degree, they certainly did not know each other. So it was, but you're dealing with professionals, so it's not randoms off the street.
Yes.
But that in itself has been invaluable to me because you learn to look and understand how other people lead, and you think, oh, I'm a bit like that, or oh, I'm not like that at all. Maybe I want to be. That's how growth happens. Right?
Yes, learning from others, exactly. Watching what others are doing, hearing from their experiences. Absolutely. There's so much that you can take in from a group like that. And I think don't be afraid to also hang around people that are those few steps ahead or even well ahead of you, because that's when you've got these relationships and in these safe and trusted environments, nothing's going to be silly, nothing's silly or stupid anyway. But, they will treat the whole relationship and the learning experience with absolute respect. And, everyone needs to find their own way. So if someone's even interested in participating in one of these groups, I think you're going to find that they're going to treat it the right way. So I don't think be frightened of that. So perhaps go out and seek some peer groups or board of advice or things like that. Look through your own LinkedIn network. I think this is where networking comes into it, Kylie. We're not islands. We can't just sit there like little mushrooms on our own. When we try to do that, we're not going to grow and we're not going to learn. So if we are very serious about being a good leader or learning to be a good leader, we got to put some time and effort into this. It's not, you're not just going to get it by, all of a sudden breathing in the air around you. It's not going to happen like that, is it?
And get your pitch right.
Yeah.
And also my hot tip is if you do have a business partner, don't do it with them.
No.
Because you want yourself to grow.
Yes.
So let them do it themselves as well. Recommend they do it with other people.
Yeah.
I think just get your pitch right. Make sure you select who you want to be in your group. Have your little email blurb. Go out to people. This is so much easier than when I put it together because of COVID, and now everyone's super happy to do things online.
Yes.
You definitely would want a face-to-face just to break that ice.
But yes.
Yeah, as far as going online, it's great. I would suggest at least 4 people.
Yes.
And no more than 8.
I was going to say that too. We will, as accountants, we learn better in smaller groups. because we just feel more comfortable around a smaller number of people. So yes, I think you would need a minimum of 4. I think that's the right number. But yeah, you don't want to get too much bigger, otherwise it becomes very just difficult to handle and to schedule, and it can just become too hard then, I think, sometimes as well.
It can. And I think the other good thing about it is that, as leaders or even as business owners, we're not that great in accounting at celebrating our wins.
No.
I look at some accountants and I'm like, man, they're so good at celebrating their wins. I'm not particularly good. But when you've got this board of advisors, they do. They become your best cheerleaders.
Yes.
And for you personally, not necessarily your business. This isn't a referral opportunity. This isn't a, B&I networking group. This is about you personally and how to make yourself the best leader that you can be.
Much more mentor, much more peer, much more growth and learning through experience. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And I think too, you will already have some of these people in your network that would be great in one of these groups with you. They're more likely, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm going through this. I'm thinking about setting up a group. Would you be interested in just meeting once a month on Zoom and having a chat about, where we're at in our professional careers? Or particularly, I think you could put a topic around it. Kylie, when you first started yours, I'm interested in this. Did you say it was a leadership group? What was its purpose? I think if we can come up with a purpose, then that helps get other people engaged with us, right?
Yeah, look, I basically explained that I was looking for people that I can share my experiences with and looking to grow as a professional.
Yes.
And, I was seeking other people to bounce ideas off in a private environment where basically we felt safe to share and really learn from each other. So that's how I think that's pretty much how I packaged it. Not one person said no.
Yeah, perfect. And have you had people come and go in the group as well? No, they've all hung around, you think? Oh.
That said, obviously through COVID it was far more difficult because depending on our professions, our workloads up and down. We weren't going out for dinner, we were meeting online. There was more probably one-on-one connection during that time. That helped my sanity during that time, to be super honest with you. But on the whole, we meet quarterly. If you can't make it that time, that's fine, but everyone sends an apology. Like, it's very, and we take it in turns to organise it. So it doesn't just fall to me or one person. So it is a lovely thing, and it's definitely helped me be a really good leader, because if you are a sole practitioner or your own, running your own show, who teaches you how to lead? I don't know.
Exactly.
Learning.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
You're supposed to learn this stuff. So
yes,
it is the best practical face-to-face free professional development.
Cost effective. Absolutely. And look, there are some, and I know we've talked about mentoring before, and that's probably a topic that we could revisit again as well. But there are some formal things certainly within the industry that are mentoring arrangements that you can hook into, particularly with our professional associations. So there are those types of things around as well. So I think if you are really keen on improving who you are or learning how to be a great leader, then put some time and effort into this. Actually go have a look. It might require you to, it will require you to step outside your comfort zone and perhaps have a conversation and invite somebody along and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Are you interested? And just like Kylie said, she found out that no one said no. They all wanted to be involved. So I think back yourself in there. And I suppose one final thing I'd like to talk about a little bit too is we're talking about learning to be a great leader. When we're hoping to bring team members through and looking at that, sometimes we can come across people that we know just won't make great leaders. And, sometimes there's this, that they're just not going to work out right as a leader. So if you are an owner of a business, you have team members, what do we do when we spy someone in our team that's just like, you know what, I don't think they're quite going to cut it here. And a couple of things around how you spy them or what actually happens, because the worst situation is that you can put them into a management role or a leadership-esque position, and they can very much do a whole lot of damage to your firm or to your team or to the culture. So I was just reading about when we're not really cut out to be a leader, and I know that there'll be nobody that's listening us to this morning that really has any of these characteristics, because otherwise you wouldn't be here listening. So leadership is very much around competence. And it takes ability and skills. So it's not actually about confidence or charisma. That's the first thing. So just like we said right back at the start, it's not about power and control. It's also not about confidence or charisma. That's false leadership. And I've just been reading a book actually that talks about how in general, as human beings, we can confuse confidence with competence. And that's how we end up with leaders that perhaps should not be in leadership positions. But where somebody is perhaps more interested in looking after themselves, where they treat people like numbers, where they actually do want control over people, and where they want to take the spotlight away from the team. So they want to have all the wins and not give them to the team. I think, you can see these clear examples. Perhaps we're just talking about role models. Some of them, may have been around you as you were up and coming in your professional career as well. But there's some of the things that, you may spot, and hopefully you don't have them in your team members, but they are out there. And even if you're thinking about leaders that are around you, perhaps not in your organization, but just around the world, we often see a lot of these tendencies, and yet they're sitting right at the top of the tree. So I think that's something to consider, because there are, of course, we want to be very positive and collaborative in everything we're saying, but there are negative aspects to everything. And so I think just being aware of those doesn't hurt either.
And you're right, Linda. And I think it comes down to, in order to be a good leader, you really have to be able to pick out those people in your team. Like, I definitely believe in that saying, one bad seed upsets the apple cart.
Yes.
And everyone get ready to laugh hard at me. But, yeah, I just finished up one of my senior accountants in what arguably is the busiest, most difficult time to find another employee in my entire career.
What are you thinking, Kyelie Baxter? Yes.
Well, yeah.
Exactly, though.
And it was a very well thought out decision, because that person is a lovely, lovely person, but they were not performing, and it was putting too much work and pressure on other staff, and that's not fair.
No, it's not fair. That's right.
Sometimes you really have to make hard, tough decisions, like I did when I thought, geez, this is an insane decision, but it's the right one. And that's being a leader. Unfortunately, it's not all fun and games.
No, it's not. So, gosh, we're 50 minutes into our conversation, so it's getting time to wrap up. If anyone wants to pop anything in chat, come up, say hello. Now's the time to raise your hand. Give us some of your experiences. And if you're having a look at the chat, you can see my comment there. I think I worked out the balloon. I reckon it's your birthday, Brendan. So that's pretty cool. And Kyelie and I think we probably had our birthdays prior to the balloon coming on to Clubhouse. So that's why we didn't get it.
It used to be a cake. Apparently, the cake.
There you go.
That's why we're a bit like these things. So happy Clubhouse birthday, Brendan.
Yes. And Carolyn's also just said that it's been 12 months for her on the platform as well, and she's learned so much through Clubhouse. So if you are talking to any of your team members or associates or your mentors or mentor groups, mention Clubhouse to them, how you use it, not necessarily just from our room, but there's so much out there, and these types of platforms make it so easy to take in content just whenever you are ready. So there's plenty. There can be no excuse whatsoever that you don't have time to be able to take in some content or learn something. All right. So we've got no one's talking to us this morning, Kylie.
That's all right.
That is all right. Yes, we're quite happy with that. We probably need to wrap up the room anyway. So Kylie did mention before that we are having a little break. I don't know. It's an end of quarter pre-Easter break.
It's school holidays.
Kylie's jetting off to Tasmania. I'm not jetting off anywhere. I'm hanging around home. But we are having a little 2-week pre-Easter break. So for the next 2 weeks, there's plenty of replays to listen to. If you still want to get up early on a Wednesday morning, or you're getting up anyway, we'd love you to tune into those and listen to those. Plenty of places to find it. But we will be back on Wednesday, the 20th of April. So just after Easter, and we've got a cracker of a topic for us there, which I can't wait to pull to pieces, is 4-day work week, realistic or rubbish? So I'm looking forward to talking all about that, because it's certainly very topical at the moment, and looking forward to that conversation. So have you got anything interesting coming up this week, Kylie, or you're hunkered down getting your 31st of March lodgements done and everything happening?
Nah, it's the 30th of March. If they're not done, they're not done. Whatever,
Perfect.
We've dealt with our clients. I've told them the good or bad news, whatever. No, Linda, you and I are both going to Accounting Business Expo next month.
Yay!
I'll be there. I'm
Nice.
a bit like, I've got to speak in front of people for the first time properly in 2 years.
Yes.
I've done a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Probably more so than ever.
Yes.
But in the cheats way, where I can
Yes.
have it behind my laptop.
Oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention, Kylie. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes. I have my nervous Nelly legs on now. Yes.
I walk when I talk, and
Yes.
sometimes I trip. So that's not cool. And people laugh at me. So I have to practice.
That's nice and relatable, though. Yeah. Yes. Yes, so we are prepping for Accounting Business Expo, end of the month here in Sydney, Australia. So if anybody is floating around that area, come on along. It's free to register. Heaps of information and great topics and speakers and things going on over a 2-day period. Absolutely. Should be good fun. And also a few other sort of speaker topics and things coming up as well. So, yes, it will actually be great to get the person-to-person speaker gigs happening again. I haven't done one for a while, rightly so, as you said, Kylie. So, yes, as confronting as it is, yes, it is confronting for me, who speaks all of the time. It will be fun, and I'm going to approach it that way. So even if I do trip up or off the stage, hopefully not off the stage, but maybe just a little trip along the stage, it won't be fun. Anyway, all right, everybody, thank you so much for your time today, and we hope you have a wonderful day and, of course, a great week, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time, or you'll hear us in 2 weeks' time, back on April 20th. Thank you, Kyelie Baxter. Amazing as always.
Thank you, Linda, for all your hard work, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
We'll see you then. Thank you. Bye.